So as we all know, Steph, he missed the last game winning shot. And what's on everybody's mind is the 0 for 12 stat that Steph has on himself. And basically what everybody is questioning is how could you be considered the greatest shooter ever and you're not hitting these go ahead shots to go up in a game? And to me, I just feel like that's a nitpicking stat because you could do that with almost any all-time great except for Michael Jordan. I mean, LeBron James, he's 0 for 6 in the finals when it comes to hitting those go-ahead shots, but nobody wants to bring that up. But when it comes to Steph, it has to be brought up. And to me, I just feel like the expectations for Steph are way too high. Like he's supposed to be some Michael Jordan level player. He's not. Okay. Remember, he is 6'3". Okay. He's not 6'5", 6'6" with long arms. Okay. I mean, he's a great player, and I have him in my top 10. And here's some things that people are missing for when it comes to the stat. Steph, he's hit 4 shots to send his team into overtime. But if you want to base things on trying to take the lead, he hasn't done that. But this stat was actually brought up in 2019 when ESPN they decided to bring up all of Steph's past mistakes in the clutch. They showed like a little montage of situations when Steph had times in the clutch to be able to take the lead. I believe at the time it was 0 for 8. And the crazy thing about the whole situation was Steph, he won either 5 out of 8 of those series, or it went to overtime and they still won that game. So, like I said, it's just a nitpicking stat. Yes, Steph is clutch. And here's another thing that people are missing as well. When it comes to the Lakers in the last game, and in pretty much all of the playoff games, you know what players are trying to do? They're trying to make Steph work on defense. They're basically trying to take away his legs. So then, basically, when the time comes for him to try to hit that shot, he's extremely exhausted. I mean, we saw what happened when Steph got switched on to LeBron over and over and over again. And then he had to go and guard Lonnie Walker. Like, it's not that Steph can't guard Lonnie Walker or LeBron James during that time, but it's just that he had already been exerting a whole lot of energy throughout the whole game. We saw his stat line: 31, 14, and 10 with 3 steals. So he was also contributing defensively as well. But no, all people want to dive on is Steph's downfalls. When the truth of the matter is, you know, it's a whole lot of players out there who get the propaganda of being clutch, but they're not really clutch. They're really not. Kobe Bryant, he's not as clutch as people make him out to be in the playoffs. He's not. He's a great player, right? But he's more so the guy who's going to take the shot, but not always make the shot. If anything, Kobe, he has one game winner Out of all of the playoffs, he has one game winner. And that was against the Suns. So that's the only game winner that he has, but nobody holds him to that all the time. Okay? Nobody holds him to that all the time. And as for Damian Lillard, he has two game winners. But were they against elite teams? No, they weren't. They were not against elite teams. They were against teams that were expected to go out either in the first round or the second round. But when he went up against an elite team, there were no game winners. He was not scoring much in the fourth quarter, and he lost. So the thing is how could you not be clutch and you have 4 championships? That's the thing that people are missing there. Did you guys know that Steph, he had led his teams that were winning championships in fourth quarter points, except for 2018. That's the only time that Steph did not lead his team in fourth quarter points. But no, we always want to go at, is Steph not clutch? Why do we always have to reduce it to the final few seconds of the game? When to tell you the truth, it really should be the whole fourth quarter. How do you separate yourself from that team? Or in the last 5 minutes? Yes, there are times when you do have to be that guy in order for you to. Yes, there are times where you do have to be that guy and take the lead. But at the same time, what people are missing is how many times is Steph in position to do that. Now, we do know it's 12, right? But like I said previously, it's a nitpicking stat because, like I said, in 2019, when ESPN had came up with this montage of the 0 for 8 in the first place, he had either won 5 out of 8 of those series or he still won that game. I mean, I believe one of those games, it went to overtime against the Portland Trailblazers. And he scored 17 points in overtime. I mean, he has the most points in overtime history. But people didn't want to call him clutch. And then in the other game that went to overtime, he still won that game with hitting clutch buckets and assisting the ball. But Steph's not clutch. So I think that people, they have a misconception of what clutch really is. And that's the problem. So to me, I think that people, they need to understand that clutch could be the whole fourth quarter. Sometimes you're not contributing offensively. Sometimes it's defensively. We saw what Steph did to Ja Morant when he blocked him in the fourth quarter when Ja Morant was trying to take the lead last season. Sometimes it's what you do for the whole fourth quarter. I mean, we saw what Steph was doing last season when he dropped 43 and 10 on the Celtics. But he's not clutch. He also led both teams in fourth quarter scoring. But he's not clutch. Or what about just last series? Yes, he definitely did miss a game winner, but he still won the series. So he's not clutch. I mean, he dropped 50 in game 7. Or what about the times when Steph was down 2-1 to the Memphis Grizzlies, was down 2-1 to the Cavs? He wasn't clutch then. I mean, as a matter of fact, in 2015, when he was down 2-1 to the Cavs, he started averaging 12.3 points for a fourth quarter in the finals. And don't tell me it was LeBron James was missing Kyrie and Kevin Love when LeBron James had the most finals experience out of anybody on the Warriors roster and the coaching staff. So really, it was superstar versus superstar, and Steph won. But Steph's not clutch. I mean, even in the game 5 against Matthew Dellavedova, he dropped 17 points in the fourth quarter, but he's not clutch. Like, just make it make sense. So, like I said, to me, I just think the expectations are far too high. And the last series I'll bring up is Steph. He was already down 3-1 before against the Thunder. A 73-19 was down 3-1 against the Thunder. The Thunder, they had just taken out the 67-win Spurs team. Do you guys want to know what Steph did for the final 3 games of that series? 33, 8, and 8 on 47, 47, and 90 plus splits. I don't know what else to tell you guys. So Steph, he is clutch. Okay? Nobody wants to put Steph on the free throw line. I know that for a fact. Because he always hits the free throw. Or what about the time when Steph had 0 in the first half against the Rockets in 2019, and then he scored 33 in the second half? Is that not clutch? Like I said, nitpicking stat. Very nitpicking. If he wasn't clutch, he would not have 4 championships. But he does. So I feel like a lot of people, they don't really understand what it takes for a player to be clutch. And then on top of that, another thing that people don't want to bring up is the attention Steph gets on the defensive end. He's always getting double teamed, triple teamed, because everybody, they're always paying attention to him and what he does on a regular basis. I mean, we saw what happened against Toronto with the box and one situation. I mean, it worked. They lost. So, I just think that Steph, his expectations from other people has grown so high to the point where, people, they're actually trying to compare him to players like Michael Jordan, Magic Johnson, or Larry Bird and stuff like that. But I just feel like that's too much. Okay. Instead, they should just compare him to himself. Okay. Because at the end of the day, we cannot expect for Steph to be Michael Jordan. Okay. We can't expect for him to be Magic Johnson. All right. Because they don't play alike. Number one. And number two, they're not the same size. So the last thing I'm going to say is keep the standards for everybody the same. Don't rely on ESPN's narratives. And also, when it comes to somebody who is a combo scoring guard. He's obviously the best to ever do it. He's 6'3". Okay, he's not a shooting guard. Okay, he's not 6'6" like Michael Jordan or 6'8" like Magic Johnson or Larry Bird. He's 6'3". He's the greatest small man to ever play basketball. And nobody they had these level of expectations for Allen Iverson. No one did. But for whatever reason, people, they believe that he made every shot in the fourth quarter, when that's not true. All right, it's been a lot of times when AI wasn't even clutch. And it was the defense that carried them to get to a finals. And remember, he only got to one finals. Remember that. What about Isaiah Thomas? Yes, everybody, they want to talk about how he won 2 championships with the Bad Boys. And he did. Or what about the pass that Isaiah Thomas had threw to land Beard, but it was stolen by Larry Bird? Isaiah Thomas, he said it himself. He said Larry Bird came out of nowhere, and he also said that he does not do inbound normally. But he was so excited that he felt like he won already. Then Larry Bird showed him something differently. In the clutch, got the steal, and then he passed it off to Dennis Johnson for the layup. And Isaiah Thomas, he doesn't get the same type of treatment as Steph does when it comes to scoring in the fourth quarter. Yes, he had that 125-point game in the third quarter against the Lakers, but they still lost that series. And in the next game, he didn't play that well because of his ankle. Now, we all know that he definitely did have that injury. We know that. But it's not like Isaiah Thomas was held to such a high regard to the point where he has to score 30-plus points, 15 in the fourth quarter, every season. It was not like that for him. But for Steph, it is. So I just think that it's being held to too much of a high standard on Steph. And that is my perspective on is Steph Clutch. Is he clutch? Yes, I do think that he is. Did he have a bad 17 seconds of basketball? Yes, he did. But guess what? He's not the only reason why the Warriors lost. Okay? Klay Thompson took 2 of the dumbest shots in the game. Then you also have Draymond Green, who turned the ball over. And not only did he not turn the ball over, he had a Ben Simmons moment. He could have laid the ball up and then just been up by 1. Then you also had Jordan Poole, who's been a munch. He had 0 points. 0. So, and then on top of that, you also got Steve Kerr's bad rotation. He didn't want to put Gary Payton II in the fourth quarter. So that's really what cost him the game. And then you got Steph as well. Obviously, yes, he is the leader and he is the best player on the team. Okay, he is. And, you know, he's been playing great all the way up to this point. He got the rebound and he didn't call timeout. And He rolled it backwards. We saw what happened. Okay? We saw it. And we all know about the officials and stuff like that as well. But again, Steph, he was having to be guarded by somebody who was playing great defense during that moment. Anthony Davis, he stepped up big. And not to mention, when it comes to the Lakers, they made sure that Steph was definitely using his legs defensively. I mean, that was just smart tactics on the Lakers' part. They were able to get Steph to become exhausted in that fourth quarter to the point where he ended up missing those shots. It happens. But like I said, the level of expectations is far too high. Okay. And guess what? If they're far too high, that just means he's a top 10 player of all time. Okay. Because nobody's not going to do that for Damian Lillard in terms of the expectations. Nobody's not going to do that for John Morant. Nobody's not going to do that for De'Aaron Fox. Nobody's not going to do that for Russ, for Kawhi, for KD. But because Steph has the label of the greatest shooter of all time, he gets the nitpicking stat. So that's my perspective on Steph being clutch. Have a good one.